Well, here we are on Monday night. Is anybody keeping track of the calendar anymore? It seems like things are just going crazy around here in November. I'm pretty sure I'm riding a thin line with Edith lately, my wife. All of you guys who know Edith and love her, she's an amazing woman. But you know what? When you start doing 3 and 4 shows a week out of the Ferrian house, things get a little tense around here. Sometimes you're sitting in front of the computer and you're eating dinner at the WASA meeting, the State Association meeting I was just on right before this meeting. And now we're here live for another show. So, Edith, thank you for being so awesome. Thanks for forgiving me for all of this time we spend with all these amazing fans, these Live Large fans. And as you all know, if you're coming in and watching the show, your obligation to the contribution of this show is to drop in the comments where you're watching from. So we've got JR Hoopy. I don't know how to say it. How do you say your last name, JR? Let me know sometime. All right, Tia Smith from Southern California is here watching. So those who are rolling in right now, drop it in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. And of course, we have our traditional Live Large, Share and Win contest that we do every single week. And this week we are talking about Woody's racing team. So the Arctic Cat Snowcross racing team, they are stoked for this coming season, and they would love it if you'd follow them on their social media platforms, both Facebook and Instagram. They've got prizes out on the table tonight for Woody's Racing hoodie and the Idaho and potatoes. So just for sharing the show, you're going to get in to win some awesome prizes. So I've got Monty here from Bismarck, North Dakota tonight. Kyle Franklin coming in from Lake Tahoe Snowmobilers. I think he had a typo, though, but I like this name better. So Kyle Franklin, I love the Lake Tahoe Snowmobile Club. I'm going to call you that forever now. So that's what happens when we're all on social media and having a good time and typing away. It's amazing. So, all right, guys, we're going to bring our good buddy Nate Zollinger. I'm going to get that right here. Him and I were just talking about that ahead of time. So we're going to bring Nate on here in 3, 2, and 1. There he is. How's it going, Nate?
Good. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. I think the guests look like they're doing fantastic. We've got, Lake
Tahoe. I want to go there.
Yeah, let's go to Lake Tahoe. So I'm actually going to call this out because there's a special guy who's been watching the show lately. His name is Chris Dayton, and he's somewhere, I believe, over in Wyoming. And believe it or not, Chris, do you know Chris, Nate, by chance?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't.
So I've gotten to know Chris a little bit over the last few weeks, and one of the craziest, awesomest things I've found about Chris is that he is deaf, actually. He's hearing impaired, and he, for a long time, was not able to watch the shows because of the closed captioning wasn't there for Facebook. But about a month or two ago, 3-4 months ago maybe, Facebook started embedding the scripts in the bottom, the thing, and he just called out. He goes like, "Dang it, no closed captioning tonight." So I know that's not in my control, but I apologize to Chris for not being able to have that available for him tonight. But I appreciate him showing up, and hopefully the world and the universe will sync together, and Facebook will bring back the closed captioning maybe in this show as it just kind of gets started and going. Maybe he can log out and log back in. You never know. We'll see. But I'm actually looking to have Chris on the show at some time in the near future here. I've talked to him about it, and I've challenged him to do it. If he can get somebody, one of his friends, to come on that can help interpret and do sign language and talk to it, I'd love to have him on the show and do it. He's actually part of the hill climb racing circuit, is my understanding. And Nate, I know that's one of the things that you told me. Logan, Utah, where you're from, it's a big hill climb race community, you said, right?
It is, yeah. Logan, or Cache Valley, as we call it, it has a ton of hill climb racers. That's really where I got kind of brought into the sport, especially hill climbing. I've always been a snowmobiler. So when I was growing up, I was riding with my brothers, and I'm the youngest of 5 kids, 4 boys, but I'm the youngest. So I was always riding with my older brothers, and awesome. We actually would go and watch the hill climbs, and especially Jackson Hole. And that's what drove me to start racing. And that's really what snowballed and started ZBROZ Racing, along with the products and the brand that it is now today. It's all kind of revolves around the Rimshaw circuit.
That's awesome. Every time I meet a new guest, I always learn something new about what's going on, and in hearing some exciting things about the origins of ZBROZ. What years was it that ZBROZ started to kind of develop and turn into a quote unquote business? Like, how many years are we talking back?
So we started racing like 98, 99, and we raced really hard as a a group, me and my brothers and some other well-known hill climbers, Kirk Williamson. And then I have some cousins, they're also Zollingers, that were racing at the same time. And actually Tony still competes a little bit in the Pro Masters class now that we're in our 40s, which is kind of crazy. But when I started racing, I was actually a senior in high school and I was 18 years old. I actually had to wait until I was 18 years old so that I could race, because back then they didn't have juniors or semi-pros or anything like that. So you raced with the pros.
Okay.
So when I turned 18, I said, I want to go race. And I actually got help from Kirk Williamson. He's a multi-time world champion, and he kind of groomed me. And that's when my career as a hill climber started, was the 98, 99 winter.
Well, I'm going to read a comment. So just so you know, Nate, I know you and I are on a Skype call here, but I'm able to see the comments coming in. And there's this little guy that you might know. His name is Jeff Dyer. Do you know that name?
Oh, that guy.
That guy.
I'm aware of who he is.
Yeah.
But he always goes by Fatty, so it could be the same guy, but I'm not sure.
You want to hear something funny? When we were at the Salt Lake Snow Show together, and Jeff here walked up and he had his mask on because we were all wearing masks at the show. You know, I called him Matt because he looked like Matt Entz from the eyeballs up a little bit. He goes like, "Nope, look underneath, it's Fatty." But
that's all right. Matt's a great guy too. So
of course, awesome dudes. That's the thing, is if you're going to mistake one for the other, I think you got two great guys that wouldn't mind being called the other no matter what. Anyway, so but Jeff states, he goes in his comment, he goes, and I've actually got it in our show here with us. Says Nate is an OG. World champ, buddy, world champ. So what year was it that you? What year was it that you were the world champ? Or years? Maybe it was multiple.
There was 6 years that I won the world championship. So
no joke.
Honestly, I would have to really think hard to know exactly what years they were. But the one that is the coolest for me was the fact that I was 18 years old and I was a rookie, and I won the world championship my rookie year. So that's the only time it's actually been done. So yeah, I still have that record, even though there's guys that have more wins and have raced more races and all that stuff. I'm still the only rookie world champion, I guess, hill climber. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
And then I actually raced that year, and then I left for 2 years and served an LDS mission, and I came back, and then would have been 2002, I won the championship again.
Congratulations, dude. Like, as Fatty says, you're the OG, right?
Yeah, and we give each other a hard time because we're I think similar in age, but we kind of go back to that era of not the necessarily late 90s, but the early 2000 era of hill climbing and riding snowmobiles and being, climb athletes. And so we give each other those props all the time, because I consider Fatty to be an OG as well. So
awesome. I love it. That's one thing about the snowmobile industry, is it's a small group, and everybody's supporting each other for the most part. And it's great when we kind of hear cross stories back and forth like this. It's awesome how small the world is. So
yeah, there's nobody in this industry that I wouldn't say that I love and respect. And everybody has their own aspirations and desires when it comes to, like, personally just riding, what I mean? Whether you're a racer or a hill climber or just a backcountry rider, like, everybody's trying to reach their own goals and do kind of what you push, where you live life to the fullest and just enjoy life and get out there and enjoy the backcountry or enjoy the trails or whatever it is. That's what everybody's trying to do. And I think that's why the snowmobile community is so tight knit.
Exactly right. And I appreciate you calling that out. I know I'll let the guests know. Is like, you and I hadn't interacted a whole lot before this last week or so when we met down at the snow show in Salt Lake City, Utah. And, just before the show here, I was informing you what this little sign above me, meant in the wall, which, I'll tell everybody here just in case they haven't heard it, is, live large for me is all about living life to the fullest, making the most of every day. And when I say make the most of every day, I mean every day, right? It's not just the good days. It's sometimes you got crappy days, buddy. Nate, I'm sure you've never had a crappy day in your life, but if you had, you got to make the best of it, right? And then the last part is make a difference to others, right? And that's why we come on this show every week and tell our stories and kind of help make a difference to other people in the world and educate them and teach them about what's going on in the world, especially in the snowmobile world here. So, but
yeah, no, I a quick offshoot, but the first time I went to the X Games to race in Hillcross, they had this big hype up meeting for all the athletes. And this was the first year they actually had the Hillcross event at X Games. So there was guys there like Shad Free and Carl Kuster and My brothers were actually there with me. Anthony and Ryan and myself were racing, but we got in this meeting and the guy was like, he's like, okay, guys, like he's trying to pump us up. He's like, carpe diem, you know, like, and we're like, carpe diem, like what does that mean? And he's like seize the day. Today is your day. And we go out to practice, and I freaking crash in practice and cut my eyelid open and had to get stitches. And then ended up crashing in the final and actually finished 4th. But it was, seize the day, because you never know if it's going to be good or bad. So
yeah, well, that's
enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is too. I mean, all the topics we talk about with safety and education, and all of us who's been in this industry long enough to know that tomorrow might not be the day you come home, and that's why we spend so much time on this channel here talking about safety and education and figuring out how to make backcountry riding a safe and fun sport that we can always come home to. And I think we got a lot of great content tonight to talk through. So Nate, is there anything, we didn't do kind of what I would call a traditional introduction, but I think we got a lot on the table already of what, who you are, what your background is. But before we move on to the next topic, is there anything that you want to make sure that the audience knows about you in regards to, any other part of your background, family, all that kind of stuff? So,
I think the bottom line is I'm just a snowmobiler like everybody else. Yeah, I started my career and maybe the notoriety that I had over the years racing hill climbs and winning championships, and that's all great and fine. And some people remember that, some people don't. But bottom line, I'm a snowmobiler. I love to snowmobile. I love to snowmobile with my brothers. That was how ZBROZ Racing was started, because it was just me and my brothers wanting to compete. And eventually I wanted to stay so involved in the industry that within a year or two of beginning racing, I started wanting to sell some products and somehow get involved in the industry. And so we immediately started building some products, and I was always drawn to suspension. So ZBROZ Racing being a suspension company where we're producing shocks and A-arms and spindles and stuff like that for snowmobiles and UTVs, my craft, or what I've tried to learn since I was 18-year-old in high school up until now, being 41 years old, is learning about suspension, geometry, how to tune a shock, what valving does, and what those kind of things do. But I think the bottom line is, I'm a washed up old racer, but I'm just a snowmobiler. You know what I mean? And I love to ride the backcountry, and I love to be with my nephews and my brothers. And, my brothers like Fatty and the other guys here from Utah and the Valley, my cousins, the other Zollinger family. I love snowmobiling. So, bottom line is I just love to snowmobile and be outdoors and live life to the fullest.
Exactly right. And that's awesome. And so the next part I want to talk a little bit about is this amazing sweep. By the way, our mutual friend, Mr. Jon Summers, is in the comments here watching with us tonight as well, too. So big shout out to Mr. Jon Summers from Klim. Those who don't know, Jon he's got this small little job known as heading up all of the marketing work for Klim, products, clothing, gear, all that kind of stuff too, across the industry. And so Jon had pulled together, I think about a year ago, roughly last fall, a year ago, a program and a little group, if you want to call it, called Avalanche Alliance. And it kind of, I think in hindsight, we would all agree was kind of a soft start, a soft launch. I think there was a raffle last year, but it really didn't get the word out broadly the way we had hoped. And so this year, as we went into this and, lessons learned from that first season, Jon pulled together, his own little group of, additional people into it. And he was the guy who actually reached out to me and tapped me on the shoulder and says, hey, Jon Ferrian, we like what you're doing with your show and all the content that's out there. And we'd love to bring you into this partnership and help us tell this story. And so I was honored to be able to kind of help announce kind of the Avalanche Alliance, the big sweepstakes for the sled and everything right here on this show back probably almost 2 months ago now. And in that period of time, we've been able to raise already I think I looked, it was 78,000 and change, or probably pushing over $79,000 already in sweepstakes donations that have been made, with all of the proceeds after expenses are paid going to AIARE, which, coincidentally is the hat I'm wearing tonight. I just got a nice care package from AIARE in the mail today, believe it or not. So I thought I'd rock their hat tonight. But AIARE is the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education. And other friends of yours, Nate, I'm sure, Matt Entz, Brett Rasmussen, the guys over in Jackson Hill, Wyoming, the Mountain Riding Lab, and then we have Brian Lundstedt of Tyler's Backcountry Awareness. Those four people and four groups are the ones who are the AIARE providers, the motorized providers across the country right now. And anytime them and anybody else who's an AIARE certified instructor goes to training, they're going to AIARE to get their training to become educators, right? And so it's you know, as an industry, there's so few trainers and educators in the motorized community that are there prepared and ready for this wave of people that we're trying to get inspired to go out and get trained. And so all this money is going to go over to AIARE, and it's going to stay in a motorized dedicated bucket. That's what I love about this. I actually started this. Awesome. Yeah, I started this, you know, scholarship program. We call it Live Large University is kind of how it all started, but it kind of has grown since then. But it's tagged in our kind of our mutual agreement that we have written up that it's all dedicated to motorized. And so they've got a motorized program manager that they've added to their staff specifically to help manage all this. We now have scholarship program with all the money dedicated just to the folks who are going to go out and push for the motorized community. We've got recreational and professional scholarships both. And with all of this money we're raising, we're going to go in there. And so, you know, to hear an important project like that, that people like Klim and Fly Racing and Marlon Sled Decks and SLP and of course ZBROZ and a list of others, you know, there's others that are coming on the show too. We got Seat Concepts coming, and Ice Age Performance was on a couple of nights ago. And, you know, I'm just super stoked to see as an industry, all of these companies coming together and just trying to make a difference, right? And I guess my question to you, Nate, is, you know, why? Like, you guys obviously have a very successful business. You're selling race parts, really aren't directly tied maybe into avalanches and avalanche education if you look at it just in black and white on the surface. But I think, you know, this industry goes deep, and I know there's a lot of crossover there too. But, you know, can you, in your words, help us understand why ZBROZ wanted to get involved in this particular project and why it's important to you personally?
Well, besides John reaching out and saying, "Hey, we need some help," you know, we've been involved in similar projects. And when John actually called me and told me about this, I said, "Yeah, we're on board." Like,
yeah, what do you need? Yeah,
we obviously want people to know that being a part of this industry makes us part of the family, and you know, AIARE's training people and keeping people safe, and by supporting it, we feel like we have some small part in keeping, you know, husbands, fathers, brothers, you know, sisters, aunts, uncles safe when they're out riding, so that they can all come home at night and enjoy their family. Because we feel like in the end, we're all just a big family. And, you know, ZBROZ is a big family of employees, and, you know, trying to build products for the backcountry for your snowmobile to make you safer, whether it's from a suspension standpoint or a bumper that might save your pipe from a minor accident. We just want to be a part of the community and help everybody to stay safe and learn about avalanches and stay out of them, hopefully.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I appreciate you coming there, and don't mind me, but I'm a little distracted with some of the bugs coming out of the woods over here in the comment section. So, you know, there's some names you might recognize over here checking in with us. And there's this one dude that says ZBROZ is the best in the business. I don't know if he has any credibility, though, because his name is Chris F. Kaltenbacher, another German name, boy. Right? Oh, Mr. Smasher is in the house. So, Smasher, thanks for checking in with us. And then, you know, there's this other guy that you might know. Like, his name is Dan Gardner.
Yeah.
Do you know that guy?
I'm aware of both of those guys. They're they all have heads, you know, this big, and no, I'm just kidding.
I love it.
They're great guys. It's good that they're tuning in and listening. So hopefully we have something good to say and entertaining at least.
Yep, exactly. And then there's this other guy from Lake Tahoe, Cameron Beck.
Nice.
Cameron Beck. I don't know if you know Cameron Beck or not, but he's a good buddy of mine too. He's rocking it out over in the Lake Tahoe area, as as they said earlier in the show.
Yeah, Cameron was in Salt Lake at the snowmobile show. It was great to actually have a show, even though, you know, with COVID and everything else, it was great to see that community and catch up with people for sure.
Yep. Awesome. And so I know also, you know, on top of everything you just mentioned, I know you have a personal connection to the avalanche industry and the safety and education side of it, because you yourself shared with me at the Utah Snow Show that you had a little incident yourself. And I'm just going to call it out ahead of time. I did make the mistake of forgetting to put the file on my computer, but I do have it tied up on my phone, so I think I can still share it with everybody. Do you want me to show the video first, or do you want to talk a little bit about it first?
It doesn't matter. Being a snowmobiler, my whole life, I've been around avalanches. I've unfortunately been, close to or in some avalanches. If I was to count, really, there's only 4 instances where I've been either close to or started an avalanche. This one was one of those where I didn't actually get drug in the avalanche, but I broke it. And it was on a day when I was with my 2 nephews, and avalanche danger was really low, but we were in a bowl area where we knew avalanches were prone. But because of the way the snowpack was and the reports and everything that we had seen, we didn't actually test dig a pit that day or anything, but we hadn't seen anything knocking off. We some of the typical signs weren't there. And so when this one broke, I was staying on the ridge to try to make sure I was somewhat in a safe area. But when it broke, it really did surprise me. And I did take a little bit of a tumble, and it did take my sled, a couple thousand feet down to the bottom of the draw where they were sitting. But it definitely, got the heart racing and put me in, unfortunately, one of those situations where it made me, question what I was doing and if I was making the right decisions, and also, reminded me how important it is that those people that you ride with are, trained and understand how to use their tools. And for me, I didn't really have a big fear, because as soon as it was started and happened, it was kind of over for me. I knew that I wasn't getting taken down the slope.
Okay.
I did have an avalanche bag, but my 2 nephews that were at the bottom watching, they're trained. They understand how to use the tools. So I didn't have that big fear. But, that's one thing that I don't know if people neglect or don't think about, is they're like, oh, I'm trained. I know how to use my beacon. I know how to use my probe. I have an avalanche bag. You know what I mean? I'm doing everything, but it's not really you that you necessarily have to worry about. It's the people that you ride with. And they were 16 and 15 years old. So they're kids, right? And they have basic, like level 1 training. So I felt pretty confident, but at the same time, that's not how the group always lays out. Sometimes you have people in your group that don't have very good training. And so taking that extra time, maybe before you ride, to make sure people have their beacons on and know the basics is super important.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go ahead and show the video here? I'll hold it up to the camera. I think everybody see it, and then you'll actually be able to see it too. And if there's any commentary you want to add as the video is going, feel free to do so. But I've got it on my phone. Apologies, folks. I was meaning to pull it up on the computer here, but we've got a good little video here. So let's go ahead and pull it up.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I was on a ridge, and as I turned around, I tried to stay on top of the ridge. Basically, a slab broke that was about 14 inches deep, and it immediately, like, you don't side hill out of a slab when it's sliding, right? Because just the way the snow moves. And it flipped me downhill, and luckily the sled kind of went in front of me, and I tumbled a couple of times and basically watched the whole slab take my sled to the bottom and bury my sled. But I had my radio on, and when I stood up, I yelled to my nephews. I said, "I'm gonna need some help up here, guys."
Yep. And so it was definitely one of those things where you kind of, and it just goes to show you, because you've already described that throughout the day. You had already been doing testing of the snow and those kind of things, and it's when you go through some avalanche training, no matter how much you still can't identify everything, right? But, things that people may just go right on, unbeknownst to them, if they were to do some test pits, like you said, or if they were to just do some understanding of like terrain, there's like a ridge, you were riding close to the top of a ridge where there was potentially wind loading, pillows coming over the backside, right? So there's
and that's what I noticed when I was going up the ridge. I was like, whoa, like it started to get deep really quick and wind loaded. And I was like, so I tried to stay as high on the ridge as I could, because I knew if it did break and I was off the ridge quite a ways, I would have got sucked down worse. But when I sent the video to Paige and Toby with the Utah Avalanche Association, they were like kind of surprised, because they test in that area and nothing had broken. So they were surprised, and of course they sent it to the news, and the local news talked about it just to warn guys that yeah, the snowpack is pretty stable, but we're getting these little slabs and wind loading that's going on. You never know, so you just have to be careful.
No, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I think, what you just mentioned, I want to do a quick call out for everybody watching too is, as snowmobilers, if we all are in the backcountry and we see avalanche activity, whether we're involved in it or not, if it's a recent avalanche or if we see, wind drifts, cornices breaking, one thing that we can do, which is what you did, is share your experience and your information with your local avalanche center, depending on where you're at in the country. It could be different places. Up here in Washington State, it's obviously the Northwest Avalanche Center. For you guys, it was Utah. There's a Colorado Avalanche Center. They're all over the country here. But most of their websites, if you go to them, you have an opportunity to submit observations. There's a tab right in there. Typically, you can click on it and drop in a little video, sometimes pictures, just sharing comments of what you saw that day. Goes a million miles. And what you just called out, I want to really pay focus attention on is that, if the Utah Avalanche Center wasn't expecting that kind of thing to happen, and you then provide them a video showing that, that's the kind of content that can very specifically cause them to go back in the night of and rewrite the avalanche forecast for the next day, and then potentially save the lives of other riders who are reading it in the morning. And so don't underestimate the ability to kind of submit your observations and provide insights to everything going on, right? And so
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that creates, content for them, but there's only a few forecasters in our area, so they can't be everywhere all the time, and so we're out riding and we're putting ourselves in some of those areas, and sometimes you see slides that come from, cornices breaking off. They want to have all that kind of information. If you can give them the slope direction and maybe a location or a GPS location, sometimes they know these different peaks, and you can report those things to them, and it just helps everybody out, because it was kind of one of those days where it was pretty surprising that it broke the way it broke. But I'm not too proud to share that information and say, hey, I put myself in a bad situation. Yep. I mean, we've been riding for several hours before that and hadn't seen anything. So, but luckily I will say I was smart enough that when we got into that area, I told them, hey, you need to stay out of here. I'm going to run up the ridge and just check some stuff out. And I was actually going to drop off the other side of the ridge, but unfortunately I turned that direction, and that's when it broke. And, they were down below in a safe area. They weren't anywhere where they were in danger from the slides. So, just be wise when you're out there. Use what everybody's telling you. Use what what we're talking about. And if you've taken the level 1 and level 2 trainings and stuff like that, all those little things that everybody talks about, those are the things that really matter when you're riding in the backcountry. Don't ever forget to turn your beacon on. Don't ever forget to check your bag. Don't ever forget to make sure that your probe is, functioning correctly, and practice with them. It seems kind of redundant to some people, but I think the people that are out there a lot realize how important that redundancy is, because you get better with the equipment.
Well, that redundancy is creating a habit. Frankly, I think, and I don't have all the details, so I don't want to assume anything, but you think back to Rob Kincaid's death, right? Like what I read in the, in the headlines was, his avalanche beacon wasn't on. Like it wasn't clear whether he didn't turn it on or it was malfunctioning, whatever. But bottom line is what that told me was, and again, I don't want to judge on what happened there, but like what that tells me is that there's still a number of us across the world that as we go out and ride our beacons, we turn our beacon on and we go ride, right? What I do in my group and what I try to do, I think, it's so funny because the times that I've made that same mistake, it's because I've gotten out of my routine, right? Like that's, I can look internally and say, I've made a mistake just like that before where I didn't turn my beacon on. And at the end of the day, I went to turn it off and I'm like, oh crap, right? And it's because I didn't do my normal morning check-in with my group, and because I was out of my routine and I was late to the hill and everybody else was already riding. A lot of things can happen like that. And so, the other thing I really want to comment and compliment you on, Nate, is that, you said it out loud, and I just want to call it out as a big deal, is that, we all, as we experience things like this and we see things like this, and if we're involved in an incident like this, there's a lot of times where people don't report that kind of incident out of fear of being judged or being looked at
Oh
as
yeah.
like, like, hey, whatever. And even the video that I put out, the teaser this morning, if we go through the comments, there was, a subtle amount of controversy over that same topic of people immediately seeing something and jumping to conclusions of what they think you were doing or what you weren't doing.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
I'm actually really proud of how most everybody in the comments really handled themselves professionally, and they challenged each other and commented back and forth, and it created a healthy dialogue. So your incident from however long ago it was, if it was a year or 2 years ago, is still driving conversation and discussion of people to learn from, and the show's no different tonight. So I, again,
Yeah.
commend you for sharing this information. So
Well, and that was just this last winter, but it's funny you said, John was on here, and if I don't know if he's still watching, but I remember being in the Star Valley, the Willow Creek area, actually with John and David McClure, and I don't believe Rob Kincaid was there, but we were riding, and I actually broke an avalanche. Me and David actually were running up this one draw, kind of on open face, and I didn't even know that we kicked off an avalanche, and it was, I guess, pretty serious enough that when we got up and we came back down, both of our eyes were just like, holy crap.
yeah,
Like, when did it break and how far above the break were we? And it sounds like, and from my memory, we were only, a few feet above where it broke. And it was it was a type of avalanche that could have killed me or David.
yeah,
So it's like, you never know, avalanches do give us signs and ways that we can read the snow and we can pay attention to the slope and the snowpack. But at the same time, sometimes you just don't know,
yeah,
like in Rob's situation where he went first because he's like, hey, I'm going to go out first. Everybody stay down here and watch. And, unfortunately, it went in the wrong direction for him, and it changes, his family's lives and his friend's life. I'm a close friend with David McClure, and,
yeah,
my heart goes out to him as a buddy. And we have local people here in the Cache Valley area that have been killed by avalanches too. So I
yeah.
understand that it hits home, and, we can't be too proud to realize that we do make mistakes, but let's
Amen.
learn from our mistakes and let's learn from other people's mistakes so that more people can come home safe.
Yeah, Nate, it's really important to me, and I know everybody watching tonight, that, someone of your stature in the industry, who's a professional business person, a rider, a championship hill climber, to be able to speak these words, I think really resonates well with, I know for sure me, and I think everybody who's watching. We got all kinds of people giving us thumbs up and great comments and stuff. So thank you for sharing your story tonight on that topic. So
Well, and I think anybody that has ridden for a number of years, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you have thousands of days on the snow. And whether it's pre-beacon time frame, like as I remember in the late 90s and early 2000s, people didn't wear beacons when they snowmobiled. Heck, I know guys that just barely started wearing helmets. You know what I mean? These guys are now in their 70s and they're still
yeah,
riding, and then they're now wearing a helmet, and I highly doubt they're carrying a beacon, which to me is crazy. But
yeah,
there's for me to sit here and say that I've never forgotten to turn my beacon on is crazy, because
oh
I
yeah,
know I have.
oh
You know
I've
what I
had,
mean?
yeah, I've
So,
made the mistake myself. Honestly, it's happened. So
and to lose a guy like Rob Kincaid, and to lose, other, I have other friends that, not all of them have, I guess, have died in avalanches, but I have friends who have died in snowmobiling accidents. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's a reality of what we do, and it doesn't deter us from going out and enjoying what we do. But
yeah.
at the same time, I'm a father of three.
Live to ride. Yeah, live to ride another
You
day.
check,
Right. It's what it's all
yeah,
about. Yeah,
you check yourself. I've
yeah,
gotten away with a lot of stupid things in my life, and that's not to say that I want to push other people to do stupid things. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I want everybody to mitigate their risks and be smart about what they do, whether it's jumping or anything. People get hurt, and it affects, or paralyzed from doing stuff that is a calculated risk. And anytime we go into the backcountry, it's a calculated risk as I see it. So
yep,
we just
yep.
have to try and educate ourselves and educate others, and help each other, because you might roll up on an avalanche scenario where there's a few people already searching and they don't have much experience, and you can bring a wealth of knowledge and hopefully save somebody's life. You never know.
Yep, nope, absolutely right, absolutely right. So, All right. Well, we've done an awesome job of covering this topic. Is there any final thoughts you have before we shift over to back to the business side of what ZBROZ is all about and what you guys cover? I know it's hard to jump from like the intense focus conversation we're having back over to that, but we do have to make that shift over. But I don't want to miss an opportunity if there's anything else you want to share first.
No, just go and donate. You know, if you haven't bought a raffle ticket, buy tickets for the sled. You know, it has some amazing products on it. The ZBROZ products that are on it are kind of our staple. It has a full set of shocks on it. It has some
Awesome.
A-arms, a set of spindles, and a front bumper. And that's what ZBROZ does, whether it's from a UTV standpoint to a snowmobile. We build suspension products for, you know, hardcore guys to average backcountry trail riders. You know, we're trying to basically make snowmobiling more comfortable for you and safer by putting stronger components on there that might help you from, you know, whacking a tree, or as Smasher likes to do, you know, smash right into them and then hopefully still drive away. You know, and some of the guys that might still be watching know that, you know, the products that we build are tested by some of the best athletes in the world. And, you know, they go through engineering and design where we kind of try to build them so that they're strong, but also so that they won't damage the machine. You know, we can still lose an A-arm or rip an A-arm off without damaging the bulkhead. So there's kind of that mitigated strength that we try to build into them. We build our bumpers with some kind of like basically crumple zones like you would see in vehicles and automobiles, so that they will take the impact, but also not take out the bulkhead. And the shocks, really for us, it's just about ride quality. It's about trying to make the trail into the backcountry, you know, smoother, more comfortable, but also to allow people to push themselves and to hit that jump just a little bit bigger, and to make the landing a little bit safer and smoother, and hopefully enjoy snowmobiling more. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, if the comments and the rhetoric back and forth between Smasher, Fatty, and Dan are any sign, like I'll just paraphrase. I'll paraphrase a few of the comments we have going on here. Is you know, I think it was Dan Gardner was asking, like, what does ZBROZ make that helps older riders like Smasher have a better day in the backcountry?
Hey, so I got an old guy story for you.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So we're gonna jump all the way back. Let's jump back to, and this is for these guys that are my age now.
Okay.
Back in 2011, okay, the Pro RMK was the new sled, right?
Yep.
Back in 2011, I had some older guys at the time, Kirk Williamson, Donnie Williamson. They were coming to me saying, "Hey, you need to build a 36-inch wide front end for this Polaris."
Okay.
And me and my brothers were like, "Okay, like why? It's got a 39-inch wide front. We can side hill this thing." And they're like, "No, I'm 50 years old.
Okay.
I can't ride with you all day on a 39-inch wide front end. I need it to be easier to ride." And that's what spawned us building a 36-inch wide front end back in 2011, before it was really the norm, before it was popular. I mean, Polaris finally brought it out in 2019. Skidoo brought it out in 2012 or 13. But it was old guys that had the skill and had the technique, but they just didn't have the fitness level. And, you know, I'm kind of getting to that point where it's like, man, do I really want to go to the gym every single day so that I can ride with that 27-year-old kid?
Yeah.
No, I don't. So I'm going to try to make the snowmobile easier to ride. So for the older guys, and I know these guys are all already ride 36-inch wide front ends, but that's what spawned it.
I mean,
Smashers
already had knee replacements. I mean, how do you get much older than that, right? Or hip. Was it a hip? I think it was a hip replacement. Wasn't it, or knee? I don't remember. It might have been a brain replacement for all I remember, right?
I was going to say, if he hasn't had at least one or two injuries, I would be very surprised. He's earned that name, you know, from smashing things.
Yeah.
So.
My goal is to razz Smasher so much while he's in the audience here that he eventually will come on the show and defend himself, because I put the invitation out to Smasher and he has yet to take me up on it. So Smasher, the invite's always out there. Dan Gardner, the invite's always out there. Fatty, the invite's out there. I know we chatted about it, so we need to make that happen. I think Fatty's for sure said there too. So Smasher says it was the hip, right? And so maybe ZBROZ will start making artificial hips and knees for these guys too,
That
right?
that had to have been before he started using any ZBROZ products.
For sure, for sure. Awesome stuff, awesome stuff. So yeah, I mean, you've kind of already gone through the full list of all the cool things that you have for both sled and UTV products and stuff too. Great company doing great things. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there any topics that we haven't tackled tonight that you want to go into, or do you want to kind of wrap this baby up?
No, I mean, I think just in general, donate so that we can support
Yeah,
AIARE and get more education out there. And
absolutely.
I think in the community, whether you've been riding for 5 years or 20 years or 30 years, sometimes guys are, too macho and they don't want to say that
Yeah,
they don't understand how to use equipment. So having these type of groups and this type of a build that raises money so that we can get that education out there is really important. So,
yeah,
all the other brands that are out there that might not be part of this year, I'm sure, get with Jon. Sounds like he can get you involved, and
absolutely.
everybody can be a part of this community and teach that stuff that we don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the sayings that a mentor of mine from the suspension side used to always say is, the more you know you don't know. So
That's so true. Yep. No, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, no, it's amazing, guys. And so, this sweepstakes is such an amazing, opportunity for the snowmobile industry. The big challenge I want to give to all of the audience and everybody who's watching is, I'm going to dramatic pause for a second just to get your attention. Okay. Everybody there, you paying attention? Peer peer pressure, people, peer pressure, and I'm talking about positive peer pressure. We all think about the things that we all talk our friends into doing every single season about, like, hey, jump off that cornice, or hey, do that reentry, and you think of the peer pressure and how we all continue to push ourselves to get better and better all the time, right? Let's take some of that peer pressure and motivate each other to get trained and get educated. So if your group that you ride with doesn't have level 1 avalanche training, let's figure out how to get you guys signed up. And right, and you think of, and I bet I'm gonna go out on a limb here and bet money that, Nate, if I'm a backcountry snowmobiler and I've got $400 to spend and I'm thinking about getting some ZBROZ parts in my machine versus getting an Avalanche level 1 class, what would you recommend I do with that $400?
get the Avalanche class,
Yep.
and then work your butt off, and then buy the ZBROZ product.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Right. So
hard work. With hard work and dedication, we can do anything. I mean,
yeah,
especially living in this great country. All you got to do is put your head down and go to work, and you can achieve whatever goal you set your mind to. So don't give up.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And John Miller, my good friend, John Miller, Nate?
From
So he's from Colorado. He's the head of what we call Backcountry United. He's an ambassador for, him. Yep.
I'm familiar with Backcountry United for sure.
Yeah. So John Miller is the brainchild of Backcountry United, and he started a hashtag that he's just dropped here, and I dropped it into our show notes here. Is Avalanche education is cool. And for those who don't know, Backcountry United is all about land access, backcountry safety, bridging the non-motorized and motorized communities together so that we all can come in alignment and help push forward and keep all of our backcountry sports in an amazing position in the world. So,
well, and that's one thing maybe that we didn't touch upon
sure,
is,
but go for it.
especially in the valley that I live in, we have some of that conflict that seems to go on, and that's got to end. Like, we've got to make sure that we're aligned with the skiers and non-motorized users as well. We need to understand that we're all enjoying the backcountry for the same reason. And yeah, there's always going to be a small percentage of whatever group, and our motorized group is as guilty as anybody.
Yep.
For being idiots. So don't be stupid, be courteous and be kind, and show the same level of respect that you want from any other user that you come across in the backcountry, because, in the end, we're all, stewards of the land, stewards of the backcountry, and we all need to treat it with respect and enjoy it together, and treat each other with respect when we're back there.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. And the people are saying, nailed it, join a club, great show, amazing products, like a lot of awesome comments rolling in right now too. And, what I'll leave everybody with tonight is don't forget to live large, and God bless all of you, and have an amazing night.
Thanks everybody.